A lot of you are probably aware, or maybe not aware, that in Ireland there's a very contentious. God, I hate this mullet. I don't know where it came from. I think like the mullet fairy got injured the night and gave me a mullet. Anyway, the water fairy, the water fairy, the mullet fairy, the water crisis here in Ireland, the water thing. Many of you know that hundreds of thousands of people have now marched and protested all over Ireland for their disgust at this company called Irish Water. I've been at a few of these protests myself. Not the last one, I was sick, but I played recently on a guitar and a record, which was a kind of a protest song about the whole thing. And it's like many people, it sickens me to my stomach. Now, do you remember a couple of years ago the boss of Nestle said that water wasn't a human right? Remember that? Well, what you were getting down was the globalist basically throwing down the gauntlet and saying that water is a new commodity. It's the new oil. It'll be traded on global markets like a commodity, like a product, and you will have it'll be treated just like oil. There'll be pump stations. That's what happened to meters now. Smart meters. This is why Bob Geldof is a big one on it and all this kind of thing. And it's all about water being rationed. Now there's more water discovered than ever. There's vast amounts of water discovered underneath Kenya, and water is not in short supply. It's just not, especially in countries like Ireland. It's just not. Now I can understand in like dry countries it is, but when people like Gaddafi in Libya tried to make massive aquifers to improve the water supply into North Africa. Of course, NATO and those other psychopaths killed them. Now, these people are crazy and these people are dangerous, but there's nothing new in this. About 300 years ago, the Maharajas in India built a gigantic hedge of kind of bramble right across India. This thing was enormous. I'm not kidding you. Look it up. It's called the Great Hedge of India, and it was about 20 to 30 feet thick, and it stretched from the Bay of Bengal all the way to the Gulf of Arabia, cutting India in two. The reason for this was to stop people from getting salt in. That the Maharajas didn't get their cut of the salt. You see, in a warm country, salt is much more vital to life than it is in a cold country. You need a lot more salt. So the Maharajas of India had basically decided that the Indians were now, like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons when he put the solar dome over the building, it was the same kind of idea. He was blocking, the Maharajas were blocking the access of salt into parts of the southern India from the north. And this was two reasons for this. One, to regulate the trade from the north, and secondly, so they could get a cut of it. And thirdly, just like in all, it's always been like this with the psychopaths in charge. If the people pissed them off, they cut off the salt supply. And the same thing with the water. That's what's happening right now. And anyone who's aware of freedom and democracy or anything like that, if you think if these water protests in Ireland are a joke, well, let's look at Dennis O'Brien. This guy is an extremely sinister individual. He owns a vast amount of media companies here, which are of a vested interest in their scumbag and alcoholic whore journalists, all portraying the anti-water people as, dirtbags and morons and half-wits who won't pay €3 a day or whatever the fucking water costs. And it's all, democracy is being destroyed in Ireland. Ireland is being turned into a corporatocracy, but it's not just here. It's going to go on everywhere. That's the purpose of the whole water issue here in Ireland. It's two things. You see, Irish people have been radicalized by it because we're only 150 years away from our ancestors being starved to death in their countless millions and having to emigrate because food was regulated. Even though the country produced vast amounts of food, food was scarce in Ireland. Even though Ireland had the eighth largest exporter of food in the world at that time, it was a powerhouse economy. At least 2 million people died of starvation because food was scarce. And the same thing's going on with water. They're telling us water is scarce because water is just a commodity. There's no bigger fight in this world today than people standing up against water. And when that piece of shit, scumbag, psychopathic maggot at Nestle made that comment, he was just revealing what they are, what we're dealing with. These people are not human. They're not like the rest of us. They're psychopaths. They're the psychopaths in charge and the psychopaths who run the earth. So you can sit there laughing all you want, saying, "Oh, it's just water charges." But Oh, you don't think they'll ever cut it off? No, no, they won't cut it off. No, just like King Fahd when he was pissed off at Europe and America, he didn't cut off the oil flow back in 1983. They wouldn't do that to us. You know, the corporations and our governments, they stand up for us. So that's what's going on here. Your life is now, you're having a gun held to, Irish people are currently having a gun held to their heads, right? By Dennis O'Brien. And this gun pointed to the heads of Irish people. We stand up for ourselves. All he does is put extra bullets in the chambers by two things: getting his scumbag, whore, alcoholic journalist in the Irish media to portray you all as knackers and scumbags and scangers and morons and halfwits, and also to make sure that Sinead O'Connor, the biggest crazy crackpot of them all, gets on the front page of his independent newspaper and all the other newspapers, so she can make, through her incredible psychotic waffling, the rest of us look mental. That's what that's all about. So you Sinead O'Connor supporters, you're on the side of the enemy because they're using a woman who has not a brain in her head, who just doesn't even know what she is. One minute she's in Sinn Féin, the next minute she wants the British Empire back. If you're siding with her in this water campaign, you've lost the plot, because that's why O'Brien is sticking her on the media and RTE is putting her on the media as your representative every 5 minutes to make you look bad, okay? So a gun is being held to your head by Dennis O'Brien, Irish Water, and Enda Kenny and the government. That's what's being done. A gun is being held to your head. And they're saying, pay up or the water gets cut off. And you think, and you're wondering why 100,000 people fucking went protesting in Dublin.